Hello and welcome to another Atypical Philosopher video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pierce. This is a Ukraine War update extra video giving you the extra nuggets and tidbits to get your teeth into to give you a greater understanding of the war in Ukraine. This is my second one today because I've got so much content to talk about with you, to share with you. Some couple of very important videos I want to show you, or snippets of videos. One is with an economist talking about Russia, which is absolutely devastating if you are sort of Russian or pro-Kremlin or whatnot. Really good analysis. I suggest you watch the whole thing. I'll give you a couple of little nuggets of that. And also from the Ukraine the Latest podcast, again, yesterday's one. And again, I suggest you listen to the whole podcast. It's absolutely fascinating. And that's about war crimes and documenting war crimes. And it'll be a little chat about, are you on the right side if you are supporting Russia? Anyway, let's go first to something that's happened in London, actually, led by Donkeys, which is kind of a protest group. They often put up posters taking the mickey out of our politicians, ruling politicians, maybe taking a little bit of a mickey out of Brexit and whatnot. They're famous for doing those kind of things. Or they've done something on the anniversary of the war outside the Russian embassy, and they've painted washable paint, so it's not too bad. But they've painted yellow on one side, blue on the other side of the road, and then all the cars and buses and whatnot that have driven over it have turned the road into basically a big Ukrainian flag, and absolutely fantastic. So here it is. Taking place. Drive slowly. Washable paint, so it's lucky that it's not going to get cars completely ruined. Otherwise, there'll be a lot of unhappy drivers. And then that's the end result. Awesome. Right outside the Russian embassy. Just a great protest. And it turns out that 4 people have been arrested. I wonder what will happen to them. Whether it'll be a sort of slap on the wrist or whether they get anything more serious. But fantastic. Really, really appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to go to our first little video snippet, or next one's audio actually. That this is Jeffrey Sonnenfeld, and he's got a team of people at Yale School of Management looking at the sort of economic impact of sanctions of the war on Russia, and he's not towing the party line, not that he's in the party of the Russian or of the Kremlin, how the Kremlin releases statistics, and it looks like the Russian economy is doing much better than people give it or were expecting, had predicted. That inflation isn't as bad, or companies are still operating, or GDP growth isn't going to be as bad as people think, so on and so forth. But of course, these are the figures that are produced and released by a government that's famous for its propaganda and misinformation and disinformation and lies. And so he's like, yeah, no, it's in trouble. This really, really fascinating interview on DW, German public broadcaster. I really advise you watch this. The video is called "The True Impact of a Year of War on Russia's Economy," a DW Business special. I've got to make sure I've got it at the right speed because I was listening at 1.75. No, that's good.
The World Bank.
So this is you're talking about the IMF and the World Bank here. So how have they got the wrong end of the stick?
The World Bank and the IMF information that you're innocently presenting is completely wrong, because it is directly, as you cited, off Rostad. What do we know since the last time we spoke? Rostad has had a change of leadership 3 times over. Why would that be? 3 times over. Until they find apparatchiks that will do Putin's bidding. Since we last spoke, all of Russia's key information that to be a member of the World Bank and IMF, they are required to submit. They are not submitting. And the heads of the IMF and the World Bank won't tell you this, but they have no idea what Russia's actual imports and exports are. Why? Because by Q2 of 22, they stopped reporting it. We don't know about foreign direct investment. We don't know about any of the metrics that are required to be a participant in the IMF and the World Bank. All they're getting is invented numbers. So the reason Putin has survived economically are for only two reasons. One, lies. It's propaganda. He wakes up in the morning and picks a GDP number and puts it out there, and the IMF and the World Bank canonize that. They credential it without one, and we've gone in and met with the senior leaders of the IMF team twice. And we've actually talked to their economists, who happen to be largely Russian, by the way. And what do they know? They repeat exactly what Rostat says. Well, it is literally, not virtually, it's literally asking Putin, how would you like us to make Russia look?
There are alternative sources as well on there. So there is research that's been done, for example, by
no, there are no alternative sources that verify this.
I love this guy. He's just absolutely brilliant. It's like, no, not having it. And here it is. And this interview is full of that. It's like, you are spouting basically Kremlin propaganda, and here's the truth.
Every alternative source, where Russia's the buyer and we go to the seller, Russia's the seller, we go to the buyer, and all third parties confirm what we have, that the Russian economy is in a tailspin. There's nothing that supports them other than the fact that Aeroflot, the airline, is back up and running. Nothing else supports their false data, but they're pumping out false data, and it gets repeated in a circular fashion. The U.S. Humorist a century ago, Mark Twain, once said, "A lie goes around the world and back before the truth can put on its shoes." So it gets recycled by the same media sources, false information, and that's what's happening here. There's no support. Similarly,
Professor Sonnenfeld, what would you say is a more likely figure for Russia's growth during 2023 then? Because this 0.
And I love this honest answer. Okay, well, if that's all lies, what would you say the figure is?
3% growth.
I can't invent a number just because because Putin invents a number doesn't mean that I have the license to do it as well.
I love that. I love that honesty. Oh, I'm not going to make up a number. I don't know what their economy is doing. They've lied. They've made up a load of BS. Don't ask me to make up a load of BS. All I'm telling you is it ain't that.
We don't know. We do know that every key industrial sector is down. We know that the auto industry is down, not 10, 20, 30, 40, 80, 70. They're down 99%. 99%. We know the retail industry is down 65%. We get this from everybody who's selling into Russia or buying from Russia. We can see every sector. Sure, there's some smuggling that takes place. There's some electronics that get in through some third country, which is random smuggling. You can wait 3 months and pay a 60% premium and get a replacement screen for your iPhone. You can't run a major industrial sector based on intermittent supply at exorbitant inflated prices. So they're in trouble. Now, the workforce issue, which is another invented number on unemployment, what none of your viewers will have realized till this point, and none of my academic colleagues understood till recently, is that before the war, most of Russia's workforce was already working for the government or for state-owned enterprises. Now, it's even more so. Those laid off IBM engineers, if they didn't flee to neighboring countries like Georgia or Uzbekistan, they're employed sweeping streets in Russia. So he's tried to absorb people by putting them on the public payroll. Well, how does he pay for that? Well, he's eating into some foreign currency reserves he's had, and that's dwindling. And also, he's cannibalizing. That's the second reason, other than the propaganda that he exists. He's harvesting. He's cannibalizing. We could send you the photographs of thousands of refrigerators being torn apart to harvest chips for use in military, for weapons purposes. But industries their seed capital is being harvested, and same with paying people to stay employed. They're just taking them out of other businesses and trying to prop them up. It's not a sustainable economy. He's running deficits, and what the World Bank,
Professor
what the IMF can't tell you is who is funding it. There's nobody that is buying Russian debt. So you can't run a deficit.
Well, yeah, Professor Sonnenfeld, we can talk.
And it's a shame that he gets interrupted there by the interviewer, because I'd like to know about that, the debt situation. But it appears that the economy is in tailspin. Well, actually, he goes on into a lot more detail and talks about a number of things, and I'll just excerpt a couple more parts. So here we go.
Anything that's been more effective than Kyiv defending itself, it has been the full frontal assault on Russia's energy business. Russia has become an economic afterthought. Russia is in no way an economic superpower in the world. Their economy, people used to say, is smaller than Italy. It's of course smaller than Chile now, and that's not to disparage the character of Italy or Chile. They just don't go around with Putin's swagger suggesting that there's some big tough neighborhood bully. Why, in fact, the Russia is 2/3 of its economy was coming from the energy business. We now know that nobody needs Russia's gas. Europe, 86% of the EU's gas was coming this time last year when we spoken. 86% was coming from Europe.
And I talked about it in my extra, is it 2 days ago? So go and check that out. I do a big talk about how Europe has transitioned away from Russian energy and done that really, really quickly. In fact, he actually taps into that idea in a second with regard to how quickly Germany have built these refineries of for LNG, liquefied natural gas. But yeah, there's been this incredibly quick transition away from Russian fuel, and that will have devastating consequences.
From Russia. Now it's less than 7%, and it could go to zero and be inconsequential.
Is that a permanent change as well? Can Russia ever regain the EU as a major market for its oil and gas?
No. If you talk to the Baltic nations, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, who never fell for what Germany and others fell for, a Russian dependence, they'll say you should never have counted on looking at Nord Stream 1 or the promise of Nord Stream 2 is that they, and now I think Germany recognizes, in fact, what Germany did, which is another one of the miracles of the last year, is Germany, thanks to Germany, they have built 6 mega conversion plants and terminals to receive liquefied natural gas. Most energy analysts, either by their lack of information or their unwillingness to tell it on TV and in media circles, talking their own book. There was a hysteria last spring driving up oil and gas prices wrongly, is in fact liquefied natural gas, which has only been commercialized since 2015, 2016. It's a century-old technology, but only became a major successful industry recently in the last 8 years or so, is that it's not figured into most of the analysts' equations, is that's turned out to be an enormous source of energy. It can be shipped. So now Norway and the U.S. Individually provide more than Russia did at its peak, and now Algeria and others are also adding to the equation. There are 12 other nations with very competitively priced LNG. LNG's price has fallen around 70% in the period of time this last year, so it's becoming more and more affordable. And the LNG gets converted thanks to Germany and some Iberian Peninsula conversion plants that pre-existed, but these massive, large ones that they built it. Germany built it so fast you would have thought they were Chinese companies that built it. And who could imagine they could build something this fast? And now that gets converted.
Be interested to see any German watchers out there. You know what your opinions on this might be.
The form that it travels in, shipped as solid, basically as liquid, back into vapor form to go through pipelines throughout Europe. All Putin has is vapor form gas, is natural gas. When he, with his bravado, says we're just going to pivot and sell it to India and China, he can't. Why? Because he doesn't have the network of pipes. Again, the IMF, the World Bank, and most economists at major universities missed that. They didn't realize that Asia needs the network of pipelines from Russia that they don't have. It'll take them 6 years to build it, and there hasn't been one shovel dug, one trench dug to begin building it, because they're not going to try. They couldn't do it in 6 years. So it's a big problem. Most of Russia's gas goes nowhere. In terms of Russia's oil, we would like India and China to buy more of it. It's so cheap. This
is an interesting point here, actually, because there is this threat going forward that if the cap is so low that they can't produce oil at an affordable rate, or if the price of oil has just dropped below the cap to the point where it's not at an affordable rate for Russia, as in they're producing it below cost, or selling it, below cost, then they're going to stop producing that, and then that will have potentially a knock-on effect with the global supply, which then ramps the prices up. And it's not that Russia's oil is costing us loads. It's a global the global market has dictated that the price will be a lot higher because you're taking out all of the supply from Russia.
The G7, the UK, the EU, the US have all encouraged a $60 price cap because that's where Russia is at, basically just above break even. Right now, Russia is losing on every gallon of every barrel that they produce. It cost them $45, $46 a barrel to extract it. Costed Saudis only $22, and most other OPEC nations only $20, $25 a barrel. Russia, it's so inefficient, so antiquated in their technology that it cost them way more to pull it out of the ground. But then you have to add on to that another $10 or $12 in shipment to go the extra month that it takes to go to India or China by barge. So that's
Professor Sonnenfeld, I'm sorry.
Yeah, fascinating. So another example of Russia getting into hot water with regard to the economics, with regard to their natural resources. And as he goes on to say, and I'll play you the last bit in a second, which is that's all they've got. That's all Russia have got. Well, they've got food, grain and whatnot, but essentially it's your natural resources. And if they're screwed on that, they are screwed. Their defense industry is going nowhere. People already dropping out of, committing to buying Russian material and equipment. So it's Russia. Russia really, really relies. All their eggs are in one basket, really, and that is the energy basket. And without that sector, they are just going to, as he's already said, eat into their reserves. And then finally, just this last section here.
Equally dramatically, it's a conservative estimate that 3 million highly sophisticated Russians have fled the country. We know this is not an exaggerated number because TASS itself, again by April, had already reported 700,000 have left.
TASS being the Russian, news agency.
Well, where have they gone? They've gone to Georgia, Moldavia, and neighboring nations. But I just had a meeting with the ambassador to the U.S. from Uzbekistan, and they have almost 500,000 people from Russia, sophisticated IT professionals, have fled Russia for Uzbekistan, and the Tashkent Industrial Park has been soaring. So we're seeing not just no capital go into Russia, and there's nothing that Russia sells to the world marketplace, nothing other than raw materials. They don't have any finished goods. The only value-added product that they bring to the world is cyber terrorism that I don't think anybody wants to purchase. All they had was food, fuel, and metals. We now have alternative sources for all those commodities. They were like a colony in a mercantile system, and they're becoming perhaps a vassal state to China. And what we're seeing, despite the headlines with China right now,
how long have I been talking about how China are loving Russia not doing very well because China become a vassal state? And those are my words that I've used plenty of times. A vassal state to Russia will become a vassal state to China.
Seeing that China doesn't mind tapping Russia for its resources, but they too realize they don't need Putin. Nobody in the world needs Russia, but it's fine if China and India use Russia for sourcing and keep global market prices down a bit. But Russia is making no money on anything they sell. And Russia and India, which of course are not signatories to the price caps, they're benefiting from them. They ride the coattails of them because they have no interest in paying more to Putin either. So they're paying the same prices as the signatories of the price caps. And frankly, in the eyes of the West, it's too low. We would like Putin to make a little bit more money so he still keeps producing. But if he's losing $1 to $2 a barrel right now, there's no incentive for him to produce oil at all. That's a problem. They're so inefficient.
Okay, Professor.
Absolutely, just a really fascinating interview. Lots more in there as well. Advise you go and watch it. Yeah, it could well be that Russia, and this is what I would imagine. It seems not just plausible. This surely must be the case that they are screwed. They must be screwed. If most of the world that was buying your stuff before are now not buying your stuff, and if you're having an insanely expensive war, and if you've had the workforce, a large proportion of your workforce flee to other countries, then so on and so forth, and keep going on, and companies pulling out, although there's some argument that not enough companies have pulled out, but actually he deals with that in there, because one of the things that his group does is monitor all the companies, 1,400 companies or something operating in Russia, and so you put all of those things together, and Russia has to be screwed. They can't just come out there going, "Oh, look, turns out that actually, our GDP's all right, and we're not as screwed as we thought we'd be, and the ruble's all right." And as he talks about in this talk, he's like, "Well, the ruble is just, complete nonsense sort of claim." And Russia is economically in trouble. It must be, and here is an economist who is saying, yeah, it seems, it not just seems, it definitely is, as he says. But go and watch the interview; it really is very good. And now for some military doctrine. This is from Tatarigami UA, someone who usually comments on Vuhledar. Hasn't said much about Vuhledar last few days. It's sort of quieted down. Nothing particularly different happening there, although there might be an uptick today, I was reporting on from the Russians. You don't hear as much about the advancement of regular Russian brigades, but you see reports about Wagner advancing in certain areas. While it's true that it's achieved due to extrajudicial executions and irrational losses, the situation is a little bit more complex. And here we have some diagrams to go along with what we are saying. One of the biggest threats posed by Wagner is that they have much more freedom in assaults than regular forces, whose officers must follow rules defined by military regulations based on Soviet military doctrine. Let's take a closer look at Wagner's tactics. Let's imagine a situation where a Ukrainian squad, possibly 9 people, is tasked with securing a tree line in trenches, a quite common occurrence in this war. So we have Ukrainian squad here, we've got some trenches, we've got a tree line there, disputed area, and I presume that's where the Russians are going to be coming from. There are all Wagner troops there. Before the attack, the enemy dispatches a quadcopter to gather intelligence about defenders, the number of people, their armament, trench and dugout disposition. Based on this information, Wagnerites would adjust the number of assault teams to have a numerical advantage. Once targets are determined, the enemy artillery or mortars shell trenches, sometimes for a few days, suppressing the ability of defenders to fight or observe. Covered by this fire, the assault team starts moving closer to the trenches without any significant resistance. This is the part where where Prigozhin's been complaining, of course, because there's been a lack of shells to do this part of the process. But yeah, so the Ukrainian squad's getting shelled. They know how many are there. And they shell or hit them with mortar. Wagnerites usually break down into small assault teams consisting of 3 to 4 people. The first team is usually led by a scout who is tasked to observe and locate mined areas ahead. He is followed by 2 regular riflemen and a machine gunner. So here we have how they would see the setup being. AGS-17 is a grenade launcher, so an automatic grenade launcher, pumping in grenades into wherever they need to, infantry supporting them, and then an assault team being made up of infantry, a machine gunner, and a scout sapper. So that would be someone who would be looking for mines, who would be trying to get into places, whatever it may be, depending on what their objectives are, and then other assault teams as well. So that's how they see that. And at the same time, they are usually also covered by the support team, armed with either mortar or automatic grenade launchers such as AGS-17 or AGS-30. Given that not every assault group has one, they can be replaced with a few soldiers armed with RPG-7s instead. And then once the artillery fire ends, before defenders can take any measures, the support team armed with the AGS or RPGs and a machine gun opens suppressive fire. So that's fire that pins down the opposition and allows your own troops to do what they need to do. Allowing assault teams to move even closer to trenches, they usually try to engage and outflank the defenders. So this is the support teams here with the AGS, the grenade launchers and machine guns are firing on the trenches, keeps them down so they can't fire at the assault teams that then approach. Once close enough to the trenches, the enemy uses hand grenades to cause damage and then assaults the trenches. I would like to emphasize that this is a generalization because situations may vary, so treat this as a general summary. Are there ways to fight this? Yes, there are plenty of ways to counter, such as assaults with minimal losses. However, I would like to focus on what mistakes should be avoided. Since I haven't been to the Bakhmut area myself, I spoke to multiple people, from a soldier to a lieutenant colonel. Instead, to exclude personal anecdotes, I included only the most commonly mentioned issues that hinder the ability of units to defend positions effectively. Some units are not allowed to determine armament for themselves based on their needs. Their resources are limited based on regulations, papers, and bureaucracy rather than tactical needs. It doesn't work from the bottom to the top, mostly from the top to the bottom. Insufficient freedom to select defensive positions. Positions are selected by officers in a remote command center rather than by units on the ground. Officers might avoid challenging ridiculous orders from these CC, command and control, fearing repercussions resulting in a lack of initiative. So this is talking about the idea that the Ukrainians aren't doing this kind of NCO bottom-up approach to warfare that NATO advocates and train for. So there's still this old Soviet top-down command structure that exists in the Ukrainian forces. There's a lot of talk that, yeah, some people say, oh, Ukraine is this different force now, different army. They're NATO trained, like they've been trained by NATO since 2014. It's all a different kettle of fish. Actually, no, there's still a lot of Soviet era thinking and doctrine embedded in the Ukrainian forces. Some senior officers remotely micromanage and intervene in the processes on a platoon, company, and battalion level, often worsening the situation significantly. Immobile units, limited in weapons, tied to specific positions, deprived of maneuver, and having little leeway in actions are much easier targets for Wagnerite cannon fodder assaults, which are designed to fight against such Soviet-style defenses. In the areas where these mistakes are avoided, units performed greatly. While the Ukrainian army improved a lot, it's not always possible to turn a colonel or a general with 30 years of Soviet-style experience into a NATO-like commander by performing a 3-month course. As Bakhmut experience shows, the systems need to be less top to bottom, but bottom to top. The initiative should be encouraged. Centralized Soviet-style management should be replaced with a NATO-style leadership. And to win, we need to be flexible and adapt as soon as possible. So that's just a little bit of an insight. Of course, this is just one person giving their opinion, but they say they have talked to people. This is what's going on in, say, Bakhmut area. I just thought it was an interesting insight. Right, I've talked to you previously about quite a long time ago now about how the Russians did so badly and how they've got very poor satellite coverage, how they've used old and outdated maps, and in fact, this explains why some residential areas are being bombed because they ended up being military establishments, but 30 years ago. And if you're using old 30-year-old data and 30-year-old mapping, then you're going to be blowing up stuff that is no longer military facility, and it's actually just an apartment block, or it's something else that's built there, or that those buildings are used for different means these days, and so it looks like a war crime, but actually is arguably just really bad data and really old maps that they're using. And some people were kind of calling this out and said, actually, no, there's lots of evidence for this. And I presented lots of evidence, and there are lots of maps hanging around. And in fact, this is one. This is a secret map Ukrainian military seized from a Russian commander at the beginning of the invasion. It shows the route Russian troops were planning to take to attack Kyiv. The map was published in 1989 and shows the ground conditions that existed in 1985. What could go wrong, it says here. And of course, 1989 is a long time ago. Right, that is 33 years ago. There's quite a few things that might have changed since then. Buildings that aren't there, that are there now. Buildings that were there then and aren't there now. Roads, logistics, all sorts of different things, and that's what they were using to attack. And you wonder why it went so horribly wrong, particularly in the beginning. That is just another little piece of the jigsaw to throw into that. That is genuinely one of the maps that they were using from 1989. Today is the anniversary of this war. I'm a philosopher, and I kind of generally challenge arbitrary delineations. A year, 365 days. Well, it's just another day of war, and it's terrible and needs to stop. But if you're into the whole kind of year thing, then yeah, this is a significant day. But as Michael McKay says, the Russian Federation invaded Ukraine 9 years ago, 9 years and 4 days ago. that was when it really started. And you can indeed take it back further. A couple more bits. So this is Czech TV doing a little segment on the production of inflatable decoys, HIMARS decoys, which had been delivered to Ukraine. There have been, according to Defmon, 260% of all HIMARS delivered to Ukraine have been destroyed, as according to Russian claims. That's clearly not the case. They're still active. In fact, some claim that no HIMARS have been taken out. One of the reasons could well be decoys. Here, this segment says, and I'll read it out to those listening, the Czechs are very active in providing military aid, often in surprising ways. For example, a company from Dechin produces and sends to Ukraine inflatable decoy targets in the shape of a HIMARS rocket launcher. And here they go and pump one up. So this is what it looks like. And there it is. And it really, you know, if you're looking from the air, from a distance, this guy says, you know, that would be pretty good decoy, I guess. We are able to produce, says Wojtek Fresser, in the current configuration, 35 decoys per month, such as HIMARS. It is possible to say how many HIMARS inflatable decoys are now in Ukraine. I'm sure it can be said that even though it's a military secret, we can estimate this based on publicly available sources that recently claimed, for example, that the Russians destroyed 140% of HIMARS than were delivered to Ukraine. So it's a slightly different figure from Defmon, but you get the point. So it's easy to imagine that 40% will probably be some kind of decoys, and if the decoys are so successful, then they were definitely from Dechin, from us. Even decoys are now an important weapon for the Ukrainians. It is used not only to confuse Russian attackers, but above all as a cheap target for Russian missiles and rockets, which cost up to thousands of dollars, maybe even more, tens of thousands. I suspect that one Javelin missile costs $80,000, and it's 4 times more expensive, this cheapest variant of this missile, than our decoy. So there he goes, which is interesting. So his decoy costs $20,000. Well, that's a pretty expensive decoy. But nonetheless, you can see the types of things that people are helping Ukraine with, in this case, inflatable decoys, and how the Russians must be up against it when it comes to actually hitting the right targets in the right way. What are we doing for time? It looks like that's going to be the end for today. This is a really important one here, and I'll have to play that to you tomorrow. That is concerning war crimes. I think it's a super important segment, so I'll leave that for tomorrow. But anyway, thanks again. This is an extra. If you have time to watch it, I appreciate that. Thank you. Please like, subscribe, and share. And I appreciate all the support you are giving. It's truly awesome. Take care, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.